What's going down, people? It's your boy Meyer Crawl back again with Here for the Dads podcast. I'm not counting episodes anymore because we're on the roll. Today, I'm extremely happy and honored to be with somebody you might recognize his face. You might have seen him on Fear Factor, possibly could have seen him on your ship or in your own home. What's going down, Cap? How you doing?
Karad Daddy, what is going on, my man? I am happy to be here. Thank you for the invite. Anytime I have an opportunity just to infect young leaders like yourself and talk about really important issues, it's really important to me that I put myself out there. So I appreciate you having me on your podcast. And let's get down to business, man.
Oh, for sure, for sure. What we were talking about before we even started this, I just wanted to, I guess, bring up that a lot of times people follow us on social media. Maybe they see a picture, they hear about us, and they kind of think they get the gist of who we are. But they either see like the high parts every once in a while, they see what we share, but that's about it. Today I really want to get to know the father you, and I also want to hear maybe a few things that people just don't know. So could you just introduce yourself? You can start as far back as you want to. I want the long story. Tell the people about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time I introduce myself, I always start off that I'm a God-fearing man. I'm a believer. That Jesus is my Lord and Savior, and I am not ashamed about it. Then I am the son of a chief petty officer. So when you talk about fatherhood, man, like my father has so much influence in everything that I've done in my life and in my career. And I'd like to be able to talk about him a little bit because he is the reason why I am who I am today. And then I'm a husband to a beautiful wife. We've been married for 24 years now. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
it's
good.
again, yeah, we got a crazy story too. Maybe we can get into it, but I mean, it's just my soulmate. Wouldn't be able to do the things that I've done in my career with all the deployments, raising the kids, without this special, strong, beautiful lady in my life. I'm also a dad. Obviously, I have a 22-year-old daughter just graduated from the academy. She's a surface warfare officer on the USS San Diego, doing awesome things in San Diego. And then I have a sophomore at the Merchant Marine Academy, football player, running the triple option as a quarterback, started as a
Oh
sophomore. So
yeah.
yeah, man. So he's doing great things. Super proud of him. So you think about, what I've done in my life and kind of the path that I took, and just to be able to see that, my kids are following in the footsteps and, living a life of service, feeling honored and blessed to have that opportunity. And then, I'm a Navy person. I serve on ships. I'm a surface warfare officer, and I absolutely love life. If you've seen any of my stuff on Instagram, and I'm all about winning first and foremost. You got to do the job, but at the same token, if your people aren't having fun, if they're not doing it with a smile on your face, and it's all for naught. So I'm a big believer in what I do and what we do for our service and our country. But you also have to take care of the people and ensure that they're having a good time, understanding what the sacrifices that they're making. And if they are sacrificing for me and for the ship, then you got to make sure that they understand that, it can't just be a grind. You got to have fun and smile and love what you're doing too. Because if you do that, they're going to get the most out of the job, and you're going to get the most out of them. So that's who I
Absolutely.
am. I'm a God-fearing man. I'm a son of a chief petty officer. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a surface warfare officer. I love life. I'm always smiling. I have a great positive attitude, and I'm just happy to be alive.
Awesome. And you're part of the brotherhood too. I know I spoke to somebody one time while I was out in Guam and I showed him a picture. I was like, yeah, this is him. He's that guy. And it was like, man, he's jacked. Like, what does he do? I was like, man, he's got residual muscle, man. He's still working out and he played football. He was a captain. Tell me a little bit about the time playing ball.
Yeah, so it's funny because I mean, you played what 2009,
Well,
2008.
like I ended in 16, so I started with like
Oh, so you're a
11.
young guy. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I'm
that's when
still
the
eating
that
breakfast.
that's what that's when the pads are like sleek, and the less pads you have, the more, the faster and more agile you were. Like in our day, we had the big old shoulder pads, big old neck
Yeah.
rolls. Our thigh pads were like 6 inches high. You had to double them up sometimes. Big old face mask. So it's funny. Like I look at old videos and I'm like, what in the world was I wearing? Like, I really looked jacked back then, but to be honest with you, I went to NAPS, right? I went to the Naval Academy Preparatory School, and I
Me
checked
too.
in at NAPS at 145. I was a
Mm,
145-pound free safety. I was a four-string free safety at NAPS. My position coach, defensive coordinator, was Mike Loxley, Towson grad, now the head coach at Maryland. And he was like, "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be a D1 athlete. You're freaking 145 soaking wet." So I was like,
wow.
"Hey, I am just happy to be a part of this journey." The reason why I went and got recruited to play at Naps was because a good friend of mine, LeBron Butts, was a blue chip recruit,
Mm,
6'3", 200 205 pounds, looked the part, and he could play the part. But we kind of had this deal. Like, he was gonna go there anyways. But I was like, "Hey, if you say that you'd only go if they take me along, like, that would be awesome." And he said that, and that's how I was able to get my free ride to Naps, because he said, my boy LeBron Bud said, "Hey, I will only go," which they really wanted him, "if you bring this dude along with you." So I was, again, blessed with the opportunity. Because I was so small, just growing up through high school, I wrestled 98 pounds as a freshman in high school. So I was a little guy, little Filipino guy, that didn't have any business playing in the high school that I was playing the college that I played at. But man, I just wanted it so bad. Like, I just played with so much heart and passion. I felt like I was just fortunate to be on the same playing field as some of these guys. And, I wasn't going to take it for granted. I was a part of, we were called Red Hatters at the time, because we wore those little red
hmm
hats over our helmets. And that's what we called ourselves on the scout team. And we took so much pride in that. And, our first game as a freshman, and I'll never forget this. I didn't travel. LeBron did. He traveled, but we didn't travel. I was still a scout team. And we got our butts whooped. San Diego State, it was like 45-0 at halftime. They had their third stringers, end of the third quarter, and we got embarrassed. Well, coach came back. It was Coach Chomp at the time, and he blamed the scout team for not giving them a look. But they never told us to go full go. It was always like, all right, scout team, it's stud, stand them up, don't take anybody to the ground. And so we are just like, yeah, whatever. This is ridiculous. But as soon as he blamed us and he gave us permission to go hard, we're like, game on. So that next practice, they had their starting running back, starting tailback, Monty Williams. I remember this like it was yesterday. They did just like a toss sweep, and I, playing free safety on the scout team, ran my little banana, and I freaking, I don't remember it because I kind of blacked out. But next day I woke up, I came to, and I'm on top of them, and everybody's cheering except for the freaking coach. Coach blew the whistle and was like, "What's going on? Everybody line it up again. We're going to run the same play, and the only ones that are live are you and you." And he pointed to me and Monty Williams. So I was like,
Oh,
"What the heck just happened? What is about to happen now?" So sure enough, I was like, trying to shake it off. They ran the same play, and it was the same result. I blacked out, got up, everyone's like cheering me on. They stopped practice, and they're like, "Hey, what's your name?" He didn't even know who I was. And he was like, "All
wow.
right, you're now going to be on second game of the season. You're now going to be on special teams as the wedge buster on the kickoff team." I was like,
Let's
"Wait,
go.
what is going on here? This is awesome. This is great." Now I'm traveling. My entire goal when I was at NAPS was just to be on the travel squad by my senior year. That's all I
Mm,
wanted, because I wasn't big enough, strong enough, fast enough, to be at that level. So, I'm a goal-oriented guy. I was like, by the senior year, I'm going to travel. I'm going to get on that charter plane, and I am going to be on the field at some point, one play, by my senior year. Freshman year as a plebe, second game, I'm on the kickoff team, wedge buster. And then by the sixth game of the season, I worked my way up to starting free safety and never looked back
oh my,
since. Started 40 straight games, captain my senior year. It's a storybook career. And I kind of look back and I think to myself, I went from 145, showing up at Naps at 145, fourth string, free safety, to starting as a plebe, and didn't miss a game. 40 consecutive games, started, and had a heck of a career. So I know somebody's taking care of me, someone's looking after me, and no regrets. Look back, if people always ask, if you had to do it all over again, would you change anything? I'm like, not a darn thing. I'm truly blessed,
man.
and someone's looking out for me. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, as soon as I hear the story, I'm hearing bigger, stronger, faster doesn't take you all the way. That's what I hear. You need
Yeah,
tenacity, you need the passion, you need the hard work. I can do all these things with my kids. I can take them to go work out. We can wake up early in the morning. But the things I need to teach and the things I need to have ingrained in him is that dog. And not everybody automatically has
absolutely.
that dog, but they need it. Where did that tenacity and that dog start for you?
So I think I've always been the guy looking up to want to feel like I belong. You know, I'm the middle child. My brother was the older, the oldest sibling, and I always wanted just to be at his level with his friends, playing the games that he was playing. And I wanted to not be the little brother, but the guy that belonged, that was picked, first or second, not last, because I was the smallest guy. I was a wrestler, I was just a grimy, gritty wrestler, one on one on the mat. That kind of taught me how to grind. But everywhere I went, I was always the little guy. I was always the guy that had to work extra harder, that had to be perfect in my positioning to be in a position to make a play. So that was kind of ingrained in me. And I look at the folks that were ahead of me at Naps. Rashad Smith, another 6'2", 205, Kevin Lewis, 6'3", 195, guys that looked the part. And I'm looking at them like at practice.
Yeah.
I'm like, how the heck am I going to make it on this level? But I never let myself, I never let it get to me. I just told myself, I just got to be perfect on every single play, every single practice. I got to be in position. And the thing that got me over the top with these two is I just studied my butt off. Like, I knew the playbook. I knew formations. I knew exactly tendencies. I knew exactly what the team that we were going to face was going to do by down and distance, by formation. And they would always say, like, you're always in the right position. It's like, because I studied, it's important to me. I know that I'm not as fast as you, that I'm not going to hit as hard as you. But if I'm in position every single time, that I'm going to have an opportunity to do something special. And I talk to my son about this all the time because he's, again, a little guy. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of marrying for love. And my wife is a small little Filipino girl too. So my kids came out like midgets, like they're small kids. But like my son, again, like he knows no size. He's always played as the little guy playing up. And like even to this day, playing at the D3 level, but he's playing against 6th, 7th year seniors, right? Grad students, and they're like old ass men. And they're like huge. And he's just this little guy running the option. But he's not afraid. He's not scared. Like he's like, bring it, right? And he knows that he has tools and intangibles that's gonna get him, to places where other people can't go. So again, like the things that I've experienced, like I kind of shared that with him because people look at me now and they look like, I guess I'm like a linebacker type right now. No, I was always small. Now that I'm getting older, like I can't lose weight anymore. Like I'm just like getting weight in areas where there shouldn't be weight that I'm not used to. Yeah, the dad bod. But like before, man, I was tiny and I was skinny. And if you look at old pictures of me in my uniform, like it's all hidden by all the big old pads. But I'm still like, I think at my prime, I weighed probably 185, 190, and that's where I played at. But still, when you're going against the Notre Dames and the West Virginias and the Virginia Techs of the world, I mean they're all big, right? Everyone's bigger than me, even like the quarterbacks. But like if you're in the position to make a play and you rely on your technique and you just refuse to lose and just have this mindset of domination, man, nothing's gonna stop you. I mean, I was going to like my senior year. I was getting wrapped up. My shoulders were getting wrapped up because I was a little guy just throwing my body, didn't give any regards to my body. And it was beat up. Like I still got torn ligaments in my shoulders. Again, I'm sure I had, a bunch of concussions, whatever, because you didn't really track it at the time. Like you saw stars on a daily basis and that's the norm. Right. And that's just how I played, and that's just how, I knew that I belonged on the field regardless of how my body was feeling. I refused to let anybody get me off that field.
Yes. all that time just playing sports really just gets ingrained in like who you are. I believe that if
Yeah.
that's the way you play, that's the way you're gonna live. To be honest, that's just how I think.
Yeah.
If you play basketball like this, if you're a hard worker, it's gonna roll into that. And you kind of already talked a little bit about how, or maybe a few things you've passed down to your kids, and maybe the way that you approach sports. But how has your experience as a former football player and wrestler influenced your approach to fatherhood?
So, sometimes I have some regret, right? Like, so my father, he was just like, he didn't know anything about sports. And he was just a Navy man that he saw some little thug kid going down the wrong path. I was just, I lived, I grew up in the early '90s where gangs were running rampant out in the streets, and I didn't grow up in the best neighborhoods, so I kind of ran with those thugs, and he saw that. And he used to play tennis all the time. And when he was playing tennis at the local high school, he saw like these little kids playing football. And he didn't know anything about the sport, but he was like, "Son, I want you to play this sport." I was like, "Oh, no, I'm real happy with what I'm doing right now, and I don't have the time to sacrifice for this sport that I don't even know anything about." He was like, "I don't care. I don't care what you decide to do, but you got to give me one day. Just give me one day, and if you don't like it, you can quit. But you got to just give me that one day." First day I went to practice, we were running sprints. I was faster than everybody, and they immediately made me like the starting running back, and this was like the first day of practice. No gear, no nothing, and I was just like, man, I'm surrounded by a bunch of brothers already on day one that I could relate to. That this is fun, and I'm doing okay. Like I'm shining. This is awesome. So that one day that he gave me, like he forced me to play, changed my life incredibly. So that's how I started, right? I had no idea how to approach the sport of football, but I just learned and I grinded, and I put some time into this craft. With my son, it was kind of a different story, right? Like, because he saw me playing, he wanted to be a part of that. Like he was like, even watching football on TV, like that's what he wanted to do. So it really didn't take that much motivation. Another difference is my dad didn't coach. He didn't do any of it. All he did was, we were Los Toros, whatever. We wore red and white. He would show up, him and my mom would show up in red and white and just film. And didn't know when to cheer. He just filmed. He was the best dad as far as like supporter, cheerleader that a guy can have. You had other dads yelling at their sons, telling them how much they suck, or you got to go harder, play harder, whatever. My dad was just big old smile on his face, and just happy to see his son doing something great on the field. For me, I was always involved with my kids. Like, I know how dangerous a sport like football is, and if you're getting coached by the wrong people,
Yep.
it could have serious consequences. So I coached. Like, one of the things about the Navy is when you're on shore duty, you got time, right? And especially
Yep.
if you prioritize your kids, you have opportunities to spend a lot of time with them. So I coached, and I coached them all the way from Mighty Mites till junior banners, whatever the last level was. And I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
his coach, right? And we ran the triple. So you think about this
There we
little
go.
guy,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, we were killing everybody. Our teams, like, we didn't have the best athletes. I mean, we were the Navy of Pop Warner, but we
Yep. There we go.
ran the triple to perfection. We ran like people couldn't stop us. My son was doing reads from like 10 years old on. I mean, he had a nice little
Uh,
pitch. It was beautiful. And like to this day, like there's a lot of people that came and gone, through the Pop Warner, pipeline, and folks that were extremely talented that had all these visions to play at the next level, but they didn't pan out because they weren't hungry, because they felt like
yeah.
because they were given the size, the speed, it was going to come easy to them. My son understood that he was small. He had to be perfect every single time. He had to work a little bit harder, train a little harder. So he did the work, and it got him
Yes.
to the point where he's playing D3 ball as starting quarterback. Navy gave him an offer too, but he was going to be like a slot back. he wanted to play quarterback. He wanted to run the show. He wanted to do something that he wanted, that he knew how to do. So he was like, Dad, and it's funny because we did the announcement ceremony on the well deck of my ship, and he had the USNA hat, US MMA hat, and he made this huge speech about, this is an easy decision. My mom, my dad, my sister all went to the Naval Academy. I am destined to go to the Naval Academy. But my dad also told me that in order to be great in this world, you just got to be different. You got to pave your own way. And that's why I've decided to go to US MMA, put on the hat, and I started balling. I was just like, as much as I wanted him to follow in all the footsteps, just his mindset of trying to be different, of paving his own path, and doing something just unexpected, was like, it shocked me, brought joy and tears, all of the emotions, and I couldn't have been prouder for that young man.
I'm proud just listening to it. Like, I literally have the chills just thinking about that moment. It's just you and your wife sitting there just watching your son make a decision for himself, because our entire time, all we're trying to do is build the legacy for our family and for our kids.
Yeah.
We want to be strong for them, but we also want them to have options. Like, you made it easy for him. You were the example. You taught him everything you needed to do, like he needed to do and to know, and he made it easy. But for him, he was like, I thank you for this, and because you gave me this, I can also go take it and do something else. Because now he wants to continue that legacy and just expand it. It's easy.
One of the things I always told my kids at an early age, man, like, you are the legs of my legacy. Like, the things that you decide to do in life is going to have huge impacts and really kind of dictate the story of my wife and I, because it could have gone the other direction, right? Like, going on deployments, all the 8 deployments that I've been on, I am just crossing my fingers that they go down the right path. I mean, I got a lot of faith in my wife. I got a lot of faith that, because of, who she is and what she stands for and all the experiences that she's been through, the kids are going to be okay. But you never know, right? I mean,
You never know.
life happens. And I'm just super thankful and super, grateful that they always chose the right path. We always talk, I talk about my son a lot, but my daughter, she knew from, I think, 4th grade or something, that she wanted to go to the Naval Academy. She wanted to be just like Mom. And she did everything from middle school on to get to the academy. And so she applied to one place only. She got accepted early, so it took all the worrying and anxiety out the door. But, she, again, a very strong girl, kind of instilled having goals and being relentless towards achieving those goals in her brain early. I mean, I talk about, having this sheet of goals, right? When I was 10 years old, I wrote I was going to play football at Notre Dame, and I kept this piece of paper, and I still have it to this day. And I was relentless. I was like, I don't care that I'm small. I don't care that everyone doubts me. I don't care that everyone says that it's never going to happen. I am going to play football at Notre Dame. Fast forward, freshman year, guess what? I am playing football, looking up at Touchdown Jesus, wearing a gold helmet, looking across at Lou Holtz. I'm not playing for Notre Dame, but I'm playing at Notre Dame, and I accomplished my goal, right? And I tell this story to my kids all the time. So my kids had this goal sheet, right? And at an early age, my daughter said, I will be, at the Naval Academy. I will graduate and drive ships. I will be a teacher once I'm done with naval service. And this was like 10, 11, 12 years old. I'm just thinking to myself, man, we did something right with this girl. Yeah. And sure enough, she is living her goals. Like, she was absolutely relentless. She's now, as a first tour division officer, acting department head, right? So she is doing phenomenal things, and it has nothing to do with me because I try to stay out of it. I just kind of give her some words of encouragement here and there, but she's paving her own way. And because she's doing so great as a first tour, running a department of about 100 of, the main warfare of that ship. And she is absolutely crushing it and killing it. So I'm super proud of her. And, I'd like to say that I had something to do with it, but man, it was really, kind of team effort between me and the missus.
Man, that's beautiful. And you talk about the missus having a family, being in the military is not easy. I got 4 boys myself. I was dual meal, and a lot of times you hear there's different plans you can make, right? You can have all the kids early. They say, hey, they're not even gonna remember. You can do as much as you need, deployment, or they say, hey, you can wait. And I know that's sometimes different for maybe our female counterparts in the military, but the
Yeah.
balance isn't always easy. Fleet and Family has different courses on it that you could possibly take, but every lifestyle and every family life is going to be different. I want to ask you, how do you balance just the demands of being physically present or present at all in your family's life, and like what things do you guys do to make that strong?
Yeah. So again, you think about and I always tell like junior sailors or junior officers, what is your priority in life, right? Is your priority your career, making chief, making O6, command of a ship, or is it your family? So my priority was always my family. But and of course, being a surface warfare officer, that's hard because your lifestyle is being away, right?
Yeah,
That's the culture of being a SWO. You have to be forward deployed. I mean, look at what our service and our community is doing right now. Forward deployed, doing unbelievable things out in the Red Sea. That is just our way of life. So, making the decision that my priority is my family, but in order for me to provide for my family, I need to be doing this SWO thing. So my wife at the time, we're on the same page. Our priorities were our kids, our
yeah,
household. So she made a decision to get out and take care of the kids. Knowing that, it made the decision for me to stay in that much easier. Like, I still hate getting underway. It still sucks for me saying goodbye to them at the pier. But once I'm on the ship, I know that I am responsible for hundreds of people that are looking up to me, expecting me to make decisions that are going to keep them alive. But still, in my head, God, I can't believe I keep telling myself that my priority is my family, but I'm leaving them again for 7 to 9 months. But then I internalize it and I tell myself they need me to be at my best, right? In order for me to continue to put a roof over my head, food on the table, they need me to be at my best with a clear head, clear eyes, clear heart, so I can make a decision to keep people alive. And knowing that my wife understands what I'm going through, understands that she needs to do her part in order for our kids, to remain on track, on the right path. Because if they're doing their own thing and making wrong decisions, that's going to affect me and my decision
yep.
making ability on the ship because it's going to get back to me.
Hmm.
So again, when I prioritize, and I think about what's important to me, I know that I need to be the father figure, the caregiver, the breadwinner for the family. And in order for me to do that, I got to be clear in the mind and just trust that they're going to be okay. And it all worked out, and I know, let's talk reality. That doesn't always happen. I was just blessed to have, the most perfect wife to take care of the kids, be stationed in San Diego where I grew up, where her parents are, to help her when she needs help. We've been blessed, and we know that it all kind of lined up for us. I'm not saying that, that it always works this way in the Navy, because I know it doesn't, but it absolutely worked for us, and I couldn't be more thankful.
That's awesome. I want to go back a little bit because I now have
Yeah.
an idea of like you when you play football, then after kind of being a captain. I want to go back to early fatherhood. I want to come closer to where I
Ooh.
am right now. I
Yeah.
got 1 year old twins. I got a 3 year old, and then I got a now 6 year old. So we're six and
Yeah.
under, all in one crib, just doing it. But I can still even remember, like when they were all newborns, when they weren't sleeping, and I was still working, like doing these different aspects of fatherhood that I just truly wasn't prepared for. Can you talk to
Yeah.
me about that time frame for you, what that
Yeah.
was like?
So from the very beginning, I was on deployment. We just got married in July. I deployed in September, and I found out on a midwatch that she was pregnant. So there wasn't any emails, it wasn't back and forth, there wasn't any text. You get one download from this small little satellite on the ship, and you got a floppy disk. from the email. So you put in the floppy disk that the IT's downloaded, and then you get one email to send out, and you get whatever emails came in. So I got an email from my wife, and this was right before I was going to go on the midwatch, and she told me that she was pregnant. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening here? Like, we've always wanted a family, but I'm away. I am not there to celebrate her, but I just get this email, and it says that I'm pregnant. We're about to, have a child. And I'm about to go on watch. I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this watch? And I remember it was just a quiet night. We're down in Fourth Fleet. Beautiful night. I was stayed out the entire bridge wing, looking up at the stars and thinking how blessed, to receive this news and to see like just kind of God's beauty in this announcement. So I was feeling that. And then I was sharing it with my guys that were on the ship. It was an all male ship. So they're like, they're trying to do the math. And they're like, are you sure it's yours? I was like, man, get out of here, man. Like, how the guys just banter back and forth.
I did all male ship too.
And then, yeah. So then we went after deployment, they were all questioning whether or not she was pregnant or not. And here she comes waddling down the pier, like fully pregnant, like now like 7 months pregnant.
All the way.
Yeah, she's definitely pregnant. Yeah. So, kind of fast forward, we came back from deployment. I was on shore duty now, and she gave birth. No, I wasn't on shore duty. I was still first tour, but
Okay.
she gave birth, and for a year, I transferred to my second ship, and for a year in my daughter's life, like I was just present. I was there in her life, doing everything with her. She was daddy's little girl, right? And she was like she couldn't be without me, and I loved it. But then 9/11 happened, and 9/11, as soon as it happened, we were getting ammo from Seal Beach. And we had to go immediately after the bombings across the pond. And I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. I didn't even get a chance to hug him and saying, Daddy's gone. And we gotta answer the call because our nation needs us. I didn't even be able to hug my wife. We went straight from getting ammo across the pond. We had like 3 more months before we're scheduled to deploy. But again, life happens. 9/11 happened. And I went from daddy's little girl, always like she would cry if I wasn't around, to now I'm gone for 9 straight months.
Wow.
I get back after deployment. My daughter had no idea who I was. Like I would try to hold her. She cried. She went to her grandpa and said, Daddy, to grandpa. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like I've always prioritized my family. My daughter doesn't even know who I am. Like this is ridiculous. This is not what I want. But then I thought to myself, man, I got to work. I mean, this is going to require work. So my wife was still in at the time. She was going to her command, and I had, the Palm, whatever, 2 weeks right after deployment. And I remember my wife would put on her uniform. My daughter would get worried. Like she was still like 1.5 now at the time. And my daughter would get so worried, just like filled with anxiety, knowing that mom was about to leave because she's putting on her uniform. Mom would say goodbye, walk out the door, and Giselle, my daughter, would just bawl, stand like on her knees, facing the door where mom just left, and just cry. And if I would get closer, she would just like just freak out. So I was like, man, I can't do this. So I was just thinking, all right, well, she loves Elmo. So I would just turn on the TV, put on Elmo, and just watch it. And I would just like at random spots just start laughing, right? And then I could see, my daughter would just kind of crawl back to the door, kind of peek in, look at me, and then look at the TV, and then she would like slowly make her way towards me. Slowly and surely make her way towards me. So then she would never get real close to me, but kind of maybe like 2 spaces away from me, but she would watch it with me. Every morning for about a week, that happened. But then next like after doing the exact same routine, she got better with it. Like she wouldn't cry as hard when mom left. She'd expect the Elmo to be on, and next thing you know, probably about a week and a half later, she's on my lap, we're watching Elmo together. She remembered who dad was, right? And then I guess, the moral of the story is you got to put in the work. right? Don't get
Yes.
discouraged that, you lost all this time. You have to be intentional with making sure that you do everything that's in your power to bring that love back, to bring the memory back, to let her know you're the father, you're the dad. You got to do all the things that you have to do so that she trusts you again, that she loves you again. And then once you put in the work, then it'll be all worth it.
I love hearing that because just last week we had, I think it was almost 2 weeks ago now, Kambui Moore, who's an educator, he was on here. He was talking about just getting in the trenches with your kids. Like, you
Yeah.
can't pass that on. You can't cry about the time wasting. You gotta find a way to get in the trenches. No matter if you gotta ask the questions, maybe talk to a close friend about it, or just be present because at some point in time, that child is gonna come around. And I remember what it feels like after coming back from Spain, back to pick up the child by yourself for the first time, and you reach that door, and the daycare provider's looking at you like, "Who are you?" You got to show your ID because they don't even know who you
Yeah.
are. Then the kid doesn't even want to come with you. They don't know who you are. And I was just like, man, they didn't tell me about this. I remember watching all the videos of, somebody showing up at the basketball game or somebody coming back from deployment and the kids are all so happy and everybody's crying. So yeah, man, I tried that. Man, it didn't work for me. They didn't even know who I
Yeah.
was. And now here I am trying to find my way to get back into those trenches. And I'll share a more vulnerable story with you that just honestly happened recently. And I've been doing this podcast and trying to be better as a father for about 8 to 9 months now, like just truly being intentional. And it was the other day, it was my oldest son's 6th birthday. And I remember that morning I was like brushing his brother's hair and he was putting on his shoes, brand new shoes that I just picked out. He was about to eat like the breakfast I just completely laid out, like all these different things. And I remember he asked me to help him tie his shoe. And I was like, hey, daddy's busy. Like, I got a few things to do before you go to school or whatever. And right after I said that, the first thing he said was, Daddy, why does it seem like mommy does everything and you do nothing? And I was like,
Oh, that hurts. Yeah.
yo. So
Yeah.
I like froze, Cap. I froze. And I was like, I got pretty much two options right now. Either I stop, take a second, and have a conversation with him to really understand, is this his reality? Is this something he's upset about? Is this something that is true? Like, do I challenge this idea right here, or do I just get upset and storm away? And I would love to tell you that I sat down with him and had the conversation. I didn't. I got upset and I stormed away. And I sat down and I was like, I got mad at the world. I was like, I'm trying to do all these things to be present, and I'm writing all these things down. I'm hearing from other dads, and I'm running this podcast. What kind of man am I to still have to go to work and like not have to spend the time that I want to spend with them? Or who is he to tell me what I should be doing? Why isn't he paying attention to the breakfast that I made him this morning? Why isn't he paying attention to the shoes that I picked out? And come on,
Yeah.
wife, like, why would you not protect me? Why would you not say I
Have my
was
back.
so upset?
Yeah.
Like, have my back, babe. And
Yeah.
the first thing I did, it took me a whole 24 hours, like, to be completely honest. I was in my feels, like in my emotions. And I was like, okay, this could be his reality. Maybe there are some things that he's not physically seeing, but it's not his job to check
Absolutely.
my emotions. I'm not supposed to go to him and be like, hey, you really, really hurt daddy's feelings. Look at all these things I've done for you. This is my chance to just have a conversation with him. So after that, I sat down with them. We talked a little bit. Hey, this is what mom and dad are doing. We decided mom be stay home. I go work and I do these and that. And these are the things that I'm trying to do to be more present. Like, and I just got a chance to really hear his heart. And to be honest, for him, it really wasn't that deep. He was talking about playing a video game. He was talking about tying his shoe, and he was talking about checking his homework. That was it. Like, it was not that
Yeah.
deep for him. Not knowing dad was on the inside crying for 24 hours. But I was like, man, I'm so glad that I was at least present enough to hear him say it. Like, to hear
Yeah.
him say something like that.
And one of the things that you have to be careful of is being so prideful of a person where you just shun them out and not have the conversation at all, right? The only
Yeah.
reason why you were able to figure out what the small things he was talking about was because of the conversations that you had to have. And it's not an easy thing for a man to do. And I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, right? And there are things that like think to myself, do I even talk to my kids about this? Because I don't want them thinking that I'm a deadbeat dad or I've made mistakes in my life. I'm a prideful person, and I want them to think that dad is amazing. Dad doesn't make mistakes. But at some point, they're going to grow up and they're going to understand that we all make mistakes in life, right? Now it's a matter of how you get yourself up and dust yourself off and ensure you don't make those same mistakes twice. That's really going to make, their perception of you that much stronger because they're going to be like, okay, dad's
Yeah.
human. Dad understands, and he's having this conversation with us. It's okay to make mistakes. It's just how we respond to those mistakes that's going to determine whether or not we're going to be successful or good human beings. And you got to be able to like swallow your pride. And
Yeah.
as your kids get older, like it's a tougher conversation to have with them because they're more judgmental.
Yeah.
But you have to be okay with that, right? You have to be okay with that.
And that's what I'm trying to do. Like I didn't think it would be this hard, even him being 6 years old. I was like, I need to
Yeah.
apologize more so I
Yeah.
can be used to it. I need to have conversations with him more just so I can get used to it because I can't imagine what it'll be like when they're 12, 13, 18, 20 years old and you're there now and I can't how did you get there? Did you start early? Did you check yourself more? Did you just kind of force yourself in the position to just maintain this open communication with your kids? Can you help me out there?
Yeah, so I think there are two mistakes that you can make as a father, right? One of them, like I think we've all done, but you check yourself real quick, and that's leaving, right? Just quitting, throwing your hands up, and just saying, he's never going to understand, or the kids are never going to understand. I don't need to explain myself to them, and just leave, right? That's probably the worst mistake you can make. Another mistake you can make is just being like the Disneyland dad, right? Just to make them happy, give them everything that they need so they would just, shut up and be happy and content and say, okay, well, dad's not too bad because he buys us everything. He gives us all this time off, lets us have all these
Yeah.
sleepovers. Those are like the two worst things you could do, right? You got to be able to find that balance. And I think the most important thing you have to do is maintain that open communication, right? Like I'm amazed that my wife, like she does it way better than I do. Like she calls them every day, just talks to them about life. Like I want to talk to my daughter about being a SWO. I want to talk to my son about playing football. My wife talks to
Right,
him
right.
about life. Like, what did you eat for dinner? Like, where did you drive to? What did you learn at church today? Right? I'm just like, all right, what are you doing with your people?
Yeah.
What does your fit rep look like? And but my wife and I have these conversations. Like I'm amazed that she has these open, like honest, just real conversations with them about life. But she's amazed that I have all these conversations about their careers and
Yeah.
their hobbies. So again, it's about finding that balance, but having the conversations is the most important thing. And then the other thing is communicate, but also hold your kids accountable. If you know
Mm.
that your kids are not going down the right path, you have to be, you have to have that relationship where you're just like, hey, come here, have a seat, come alongside. I know this is probably something you're not thinking about, but if you continue down this path, these are the potential risks. And then whether they take it or not, because my kids are all grown and adults, then it's up to them at this point. But you have to be able, as a parent, even though your kids are older, you still have to be able to let them know that you've experienced a lot in your life. You know how it's trending and your decision making, how it's trending. Maybe you want to take a few seconds to think about it. So having the communication, but still holding your kids accountable are keys to parenthood, in my opinion.
That is awesome. Tell me, I got a few more questions before we get out of here, but I want to know what you're most passionate about when we're talking about fatherhood. Like, what makes your heart jump? What makes your heart pump? What motivates you when it comes to fatherhood?
So, I mean, it's changed, right? My priority, my passion was getting them to the promised land, right? Getting them to a point where they no longer needed me or my wife. I think we're there, right? Of course, they still need, the encouragement. They still need, fatherly and motherly advice. But we did everything in our power to get them the education, to get them to their careers, to get them to just being responsible human beings that are providing essential services to our country. Like, I couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah.
Now, my priorities is just to kind of sit back and just enjoy them. Enjoy watching my son play football. Enjoy talking to Giselle's CEO, and CEO's telling me how wonderful a job she's doing. Like, that all just brings joy to my heart. And at a certain point, as a parent, like, you need to be able to help them when they need help, but when they don't need help, just sit back and enjoy the show, right? And I think that's where I'm at this point in my life, where I'm just enjoying the show. I still help when they need help, and I'm still a concerned parent when, there's things that, aren't going right. But like, the best part about parenthood right now is just watching the awesome and epic things that they're doing in their lives right now.
That's amazing. If you can go back and change anything, what would it be?
Oh man,
if you want to change anything at all.
So again, like, I asked myself this question, like, with my life, no. But with parenthood, I was really hard on my son, right? Like, after every game, I don't know how your dad was after games, but if he didn't play so well, not to my expectation, man, those car rides home was a one-way conversation saying, son, you need to get your head out of your butt and you need to play harder. You need to make these, different plays, whatever. And so, like, I think to myself, man, I'm yelling. And I would even think to myself as I'm having these conversations, I am yelling at this 10, 12-year-old kid, and they just won. Like, he should be celebrating. But because I knew that he didn't play to his potential, that I had to at least share with them that there are people that are, happy with and content with just winning. Like, I want you to be happy and content when you played your butt off, made zero mistakes, or at least understood where you made mistakes. So we used to do this thing, like, for Christmas, I gave him coupons, right? And one of the coupons was a silent ride home. And there was one day, they still won, but he knows that I wasn't very happy with how we played. And we were walking back to the car, and he said, hey, I know this is probably the wrong time to ask, but Dad, can I use my coupon? And I was like, yeah, you better. You better use that coupon because you're about to have it. And so he gave me the coupon, and we just sat there, and I was just like biting my tongue, and I'm just like, oh, so angry. But, we look back and we talk about those moments, and that's like one of the first things that he brings up. And, but then if I wasn't so hard on him, would he be the man, the player that he is today? I don't know. And I question myself all the time. The fact that he still has those memories about, me getting on him and holding him accountable, not being perfect, that kind of breaks my heart. But then I see that now that I just watch, like, how hard he is on himself when he didn't make the right play, didn't make the right read, made a mistake. And then I think to myself, well, he was raised right? He was raised right. And then, so those are the kind of things that I question whether or not I would be as hard as I was back then. But he turned out to be a great man, and I think it all kind of happens for a reason. Would he be the same person if I didn't? I don't know, and I guess we'll never know.
That's the thing. You just never really know.
It is my job to make him the best person that he could be. Right? Could I have worked on my tact and my tone? Probably. But I just wanted him to be great. I wanted him to be awesome. I want him to be a freaking winner, and I want him to just, be the best at what he does. He has that mindset now, I think. But it's,
he does.
Yeah. And, and again, like, we've had different upbringings. Like, I grew up hood. Like, I grew up where I had to fight for mine. He grew up in a private school where, things were kind of handed to him. So I had to get the ugly out of him. I had to get the grind, and, just the fight, the dog out of him. And I thought that was the only way that I could at the time.
And those are the two things that I think about. I've been thinking about them all this week. And I think I even posted one of them was essentially like, I would love to raise or try to raise my kids the way my parents raised me because that's the only way I know. Like there's
Yeah.
some parts I would love to take out, but we're not living in the same world. I
It's a
can't.
crazy world, man. It is crazy.
Not the same. My mom used to
Yeah.
let me out of the house on a Saturday morning at 8 or 9 o'clock and not see
Yep.
me again until the lights were down, like till the lights were
Yeah.
on in the street.
Yeah.
Like I'd be on my bike.
Yep.
I wouldn't call home. I didn't have a cell phone. I would come
Nope.
back, get something to drink, maybe a water. If I stayed in too long, I was gonna be afraid that somebody was gonna ask me to do something. So I just
Yeah.
stayed out, and they still got a chance when I was in front of them to raise me the way that they wanted to raise me, right? I was disciplined in the ways that the culture said and the ways that my parents wanted me, to
Yep.
just raise me. But at the same time, that's the mystery in also being a parent. You don't
Yeah.
really know what the outcome is going to look like as you're raising your children. You hope that they hear your heart. You hope that they see your intentions. You hope that the good things
It's a
stick.
lot of this and a lot of this,
That's it.
right?
Both of these two. Both of
Yeah.
those. Yeah, there's no true guideline, and there's no full way to prepare other than to be present and to be intentional. So the last question I have for you, because at some point, one day, maybe your son is going to be a father, and if you can give him just a
Yeah.
few words of encouragement or advice, I want to hear that.
Man, it's exactly what you just said, man. Like you have to fight for your kids' love. You have to, you have to be intentional with being present, regardless of what you have going on, regardless of the amount of work you think you have to do to put in order to provide for your family. There's nothing more important than just being present for your kid. Like you don't have to do it the way that I did, right? You don't have to do it, the way that Papa did it. You got to do it your way, but your kids have to understand that you will always be there for them. And the only way you could do that is to be there for them, to be present. And, oh, by the way, son, if you need help, dad's always here to help you out. And that's kind of my goal in life. Like, I want them to do their thing, put in whatever time they need to in their jobs to be successful. Because if you need help to raise your kids, I'm always here. That's like, I just want to be able to be there for my kids. Even if I'm 80, 90 years old, use us, rely on us, lean on us. We want to be there to help you. But again, there's no other love than a father's love. And your kids will know it. They may be small. They may not be able to verbalize it right, but they know when dad's around. And you got to make sure your butt's around.
You guys heard it here first. Make sure you're around, be intentional, be present. Cap, thank you. It's an honor to have you on here. This has been great. I know for a fact we're going to help so many fathers out there. Guys,
I appreciate you.
Stay tuned. You're going to want to listen to this and listen through the entire thing, okay? And listen to it again. Here for the Dads. Thank you for watching. You just listened to Here for the Dads podcast with Meyer Crawl. I am so grateful that you're here. But if you're new to this space, what I need you to do is slow down and subscribe, share, review, or rate. Whatever you can to help me out, because I'm on a journey to create a space for existing fathers and new fathers that's going to allow them to be a little bit more confident and a little bit more efficient at what they're doing. Thank you.